This episode is sponsored by Roman Well. IBD is every day. So shouldn't you have access to the nutrition support you need every day too? The folks over at Roman Well couldn't agree more. Their team of IBD dietitians works with you to develop a care plan that is uniquely tailored to your specific lifestyle and provides the daily support you need in order to expand your diet, reduce your symptoms, and gain a better relationship with food. Head over to romanwell.com to apply for a complimentary consultation and tell them that Robin and Alicia sent you.
Hi, I'm Alicia.
And I'm Robin, and you're listening to Bowel Moments,
the podcast sharing real talk about the realities of IBD. Served on the rocks. This week we have extra special guests. We're joined by Robin's daughters, Logan and Baylee. They talk about what it's like to grow up with a mom living with inflammatory bowel disease, how it may have shaped their career decisions, and how her parenting has shaped their lives. I hope you enjoy. Cheers. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Bowel Moments. This is Alicia, and I am really excited for today's episode.
Hey, everybody. It's Robin. And I don't know. I think I could be a little bit more excited than Alicia, maybe slightly. Just a little bit. This episode is literally a year and a half in the making. I went back and listened to our very first episode the other day, and it reminded me that we talked a lot about having these people as guests, and then we didn't do it. So I had to send some text messages and make it happen. So tonight, our guests are my daughters.
Yay!
Logan and Baylee, would you introduce yourselves, please? Logan first. We'll go in age order.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I want to say thank you guys for having me on the podcast. Like you said, it's been a year in the making, so glad we're finally getting it done. I'm 24 years old. I live in Southern California right now. This is my first podcast, so new to this, but I listen all the time.
Doing great already.
Hello, I'm Baylee. I'm the youngest. I'm 23. I'm currently living in Northern California, but I will be moving to Southern California at the end of the month, just figuring out my life.
Yes, and she just had a birthday. She just turned 23, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Is the move to California your present to yourself?
Well, that's been in the making for like the last year, so it just so happened to be close to my birthday. But I've been working hard to do that.
Very hard.
Excellent. I think Southern California seems wonderful, so I'm a little bit jealous of you because it's not warm here ever, it feels like. Well, guys, I'm really excited to have you guys on, because we were kind of laughing because I feel like I know you. This is the first time I've met you, but I've heard about you for 6+ years now. And so I'm excited to finally meet you and put names and faces together and to hear a little bit more about your side of this story that I've heard so much about. So welcome, guys.
Yes, thanks.
Happy to be here.
Mm-hmm. Curious. Sounds like it. I am curious because Robin has been very open about, basically Baylee again was tiny. Logan, you were 3, right? When your mom was diagnosed. Do you remember? Most 3-year-olds don't remember much other than little snippets here and there. Is there anything you remember about when your mom was diagnosed and when she was in the hospital and maybe when your sister was born and you're like, screw that baby?
So my memory, I do have a little bit of memories of when I was that age and we lived, because we were all living in Michigan at that time. I remember spending a lot more time with my grandma. I didn't necessarily understand the reason why. I didn't know that my mom was sick, or I don't remember that part specifically, but I know that I was with my dad's mom a lot more than we usually were. And my mom was not home as much. And then I also have a little bit of memory of seeing my mom with the bag for the first time. I remember standing in the bathroom with her when she was changing it. I don't know why that specifically sticks out to me, but I do remember that little bit of information. But other than that, I was so little, I didn't know all the details and everything. So
no, and most 3-year-olds don't remember much. That makes sense. But I would imagine remembering the bag is because it's just unusual. It's not necessarily something, it's not like Sesame Street has a character that has an ostomy, so I'm sure it was something that you're like, oh, this is different. And, something that's remarkable in your life. So that makes sense to me.
Yes.
I will add that I was not trying to hide that from the girls when they were, I didn't want them to be scared of it. And so I remember not sending them out of the room when I had to change it, or especially right after surgery when the nurse was there changing it. So I'm surprised that you remember it, but also kind of glad too, because I kind of made a conscious decision to not hide that from you.
So other than that, what do you remember? Are there aspects of your childhood that you equate or that you remember times when your mom's disease was more relevant to what was going on, or that you thought that your life might be slightly different than your friends because of it?
I remember when we were younger, we did a lot of cross-country road trips. So we would get in the car and drive from Louisiana to Michigan, and wherever we were going, so we would drive in the car a lot. I just remember specifically that we always had to be near a bathroom, or my mom was always looking for the bathroom, even if she just went to the bathroom but knew we weren't going to see a bathroom again for 3 hours. She was like, nope, we're all stopping here and going to the bathroom just in case there's not a bathroom near site. That's something that I do just remember all the time. We would make jokes about it. Well, where's the bathroom? Look for the bathrooms. Everyone would look for the exit out, and my mom was like, where's the bathroom here? Okay. So I remember that growing up.
Yeah, I remember that too. I honestly, I was talking to my mom about this a few weeks ago, but I don't really have very good memory of a lot of things. Like Logan remembers a lot more than I do. But I do remember us always stopping and using the bathroom a lot, or like Logan said, if we were going somewhere farther that didn't have a bathroom, then we would stop and use the bathroom before, even if we didn't have to. But
it was a lot about using the bathroom, right?
It's really about using the bathroom a lot. That's what I remember.
And food. This made me think about it. I remember, not that it was something that we really paid attention to, but I remember hearing a lot like, oh, can't eat that today. My stomach didn't like that. So I just knew that you were aware of what you were eating and how often that would make you go to the bathroom after a meal. So yeah.
That's interesting. Well, that you remember that. Alicia, this is funny because I had a complex when they were little, and talking to Kim, she has small children, she's a single mom, and she aired some of the things that she's worried about with her kids. And it was the same thing I was worried about with them. Like, we lived in New Orleans for part of their childhood, and I didn't take them to Mardi Gras. Like, my mom or my sister took them to Mardi Gras, and I didn't take them to, amusement park. I mean, all festivals, all these fun things in and around the city. But my mom took them, or my sister took them, or I let them go with friends, or I still wanted to have that experience, but I never got to go with them. And I was always worried that, they'd be scarred for life because I didn't take them to these things that, everybody in our community went to. I mean, do you guys remember that at all? Like, or did you think about that at all? Did it affect you? You're like, nope, we just got to go.
I think I wasn't aware that maybe was the reason. Like Mardi Gras, for example, it was always like Baylee was always sick on Mardi Gras too, so she could never go. So I think I just was unaware that was the reason that we didn't go to things.
Yeah. Well, we went to things.
Yeah. Or that.
But mom wasn't able to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, number one, as soon as you said Mardi Gras, I was like, do kids go to that? Like, all my visions of Mardi Gras are not child appropriate. I'm guessing there must be more to it than I know.
Much more. Yeah. Very family friendly.
Two different sides. You got the daytime Mardi Gras and the nighttime Mardi Gras.
I clearly need to get out more, apparently. But yeah, I was like, oh, you take your kids to that? I don't know about that.
Well, we're different in New Orleans, but yes, actually,
free the nipple.
Yes, you take your kids. Well, you try not to take them to the area of town where more people are going to be doing that. But I mean, it is Mardi Gras.
The other thing your mom has been very open about is a lot of poop talk, and being very open with poop talk across the board. Like, everybody kind of knew about her bowel movements. So correct me if I'm wrong, Robin, correct me if I'm wrong. But so did your friends come over and they were like, this is an interesting household because this is such an open topic? Because I will tell you, as a very repressed Midwesterner, there's no way in hell we were talking about that. So was this something your friends were like, this is great? Or were they like, this is unusual? Talk to me about poop.
I always remember telling my friends that my mom couldn't fart.
Yeah.
And that was that was like as far as it went, I feel like. And they were like, what? She can't fart? Haha. And then that was like,
you love telling everybody knew that though. Like, that was your thing that you told any new friends that got in the car with me. My mom can't fart.
Did anybody try to prove it?
Well, whenever somebody farted, we knew it wasn't her. So
yeah.
It's either you or me.
I think I didn't hear any comments specifically about, oh, that's an absurd amount of poop talk, but my mom was also very open just in general. If anyone did have questions about it or like why she was so open about it, she was always open to talking about, her ulcerative colitis at the time, which, turned out to be different. But so it was always just an open conversation in our house. I don't know. I'm sure it made some people uncomfortable because I sometimes am like, okay, I get it. Okay. We need the bathroom. You got to poop. I get it. But it was never something that I was like, Mom, you can't say this around these people. Like, you can't tell them that you poop, because she was just open about it. And that's how we were.
So I have said in the past on the show that my dad had multiple sclerosis, but he wasn't diagnosed until I was a teenager. And so I didn't grow up with it necessarily. So I was aware of when he was diagnosed, but still didn't really know what we were dealing with. But I will say that has definitely caused some anxiety in my life, because there are times where I worry that I'm also going to get multiple sclerosis because of it, growing up with it. And frankly, I'm exactly the demographic who would get it. I'm Scandinavian descent, I'm female, all these things. So I'm curious if you guys have had any anxiety because of having a parent also with something like this.
I guess I would say anxiety, because I do have anxiety in general about everything. So I've been told since as long as I can remember that I'm a hypochondriac. And I think that might have just been because my mom was diagnosed so like young in my life. My mom was always just like, go to the doctor if you're feel like there's something that could be wrong. I had to learn to what extent I really needed to go to the doctor for if it was just an upset stomach that day because of something I ate or for other reasons. But my mom also always encouraged us, like if we are in pain or if we didn't feel good about something, to just go get it checked out. I think, we have digestive problems in general. So Baylee and I have definitely had our fair share of GI appointments and, CAT scans and everything. So yeah, it's definitely a worry. But it's so common, or it's more common than it was back then too now. So that's a whole part of it too that makes me think, yeah, could be me one day. I've had stomach pains as long as I can remember. But yeah.
Well, I got really sick my junior year of high school. And I remember I had to get a colonoscopy because nobody could figure out what was going on. And I think there was something weird going on with my stomach. So I had to get a colonoscopy. And when we were they were asking us, the doctor was asking questions, and I had to say, like, my mom has Crohn's and colitis. And they were like, okay, like you have a chance, but it ended up not being that. So I would say that was probably the only anxiety I got from that. But I mean, after I found out that I didn't have it, I wasn't really anxious about it. I don't really have anxiety, so I kind of just let things just roll the way that they're going to roll.
Oh, Baylee, I need to take a page from your book, I think. Just calm down a bit.
Yes, it is. I wish we all could take a page from Baylee's book. She is truly like living in the moment. It's one of the things that I love most about her.
She puts me in my place every once in a while. I'm like, okay, you're right. Now it's just today. I don't need to worry about 3 months from now. It's just today.
Listen, we all can sit here and stress ourselves out to a max, but also like that's not really doing anything for me. So I'm just gonna, when the time comes, I'll cross the bridge when I get there.
Nice. Good way to live your life. I like it. I have some curiosity questions, but this one you definitely can tell me you don't want to talk about. So your mom had very major surgery more than a year ago now, Robin?
December 2020, almost a year and a half.
Okay. So December 2020, we have heard your mother's saga of her surgery and how terribly wrong it went there for a while. So are you willing to talk about that? Because that's obviously pretty traumatic. Like that was a big deal. Your mom was really, really sick. But if you are willing to talk about it, talk to me a little bit about that time and processing that and how because you also couldn't really see her because it's the middle of the stupid pandemic as well. So talk to me about that time period and your experiences from your side.
Yeah, I'm fine with talking about it. I was working in the ER at the time. So this was also during, the pandemic. So I kind of saw the ER perspective of things, a lot of worst case scenario situations in the ER, which I think also contributed to me being a little more freaked out once my mom, did go through everything that she went through. But I also had only come from it from the ER perspective about not seeing family members and stuff. I didn't realize I knew how devastating it was not being able to see your family member and stuff, but it didn't have a direct impact for me. You never know what it's truly like to go through something until you go through it yourself. So being on the opposite end of it, where we were just trying to get answers and more information, I think that took the biggest toll on me, not being able to be there with my mom during all of this. We went into it and I actually went to Houston because the plan was that she was going to go in for surgery on a Friday or Thursday. And then she was supposed to be out by Sunday. And I was going to drive her back to Louisiana and help her get settled in Louisiana. So that definitely took a big turn when after I think it was the first night after your surgery and we hadn't heard from you, I called my stepdad to check in and he said the surgery went a little bit longer than they expected, but he didn't know any more information than that either. Next thing we knew, she's on the BiPAP machine, going, who even knows where she was going? They didn't really give us a lot of answers. So at that point, definitely the worry and the panic set in a little bit. And that I think was definitely the hardest part. And there was one moment where I think, how long did you end up staying, Mom? Like 2.5 weeks or something? Yeah. So we were supposed to, it was Christmas that week, the week after. So I remember sitting in the hotel room right outside of the Houston hospital during Christmas Day with my grandma. It was nice we hadn't spent that much time together in a long time. So that was the good bonding experience out of it. But it was really difficult. And my mom was just so sick. It's almost like not good that we didn't know just the extent of how sick she was. But I think that if we were knowing everything that was going on at the moment, it probably would have just scared us more. So, pros and cons. I don't know which one is actually better. But I remember I don't even know how I got to sneak in one day. Well, one day I got to sneak in to bring her like a phone charger or something super silly, but the nurse said that I could do it. So I walked in there and I remember the hospital guest telling me that I wasn't supposed to be there. But I was like, oh no, I got approval from the nurse. I'm running in. So I ran inside the room and that definitely was an eye-opening experience. Just so different than the state that I had seen her in previously. When we were younger, my mom had surgery, when I was 3. And then she didn't really have a lot of symptoms up until we were adults again, at least that I was aware of. So it's not like were in and out of the hospital during my childhood and stuff. So seeing her in the hospital bed, I think was definitely the hardest thing through this whole Crohn's journey that we've been on together, seeing her in the hospital for that moment. Just because it was so not like her and it was so unexpected from the plan that we thought she was going to be out in 3 days. And I was like, I wasn't prepared for this. Okay. But we're here now. So that's all that I can be grateful for.
And it seems, I agree with you. It's almost like perhaps not knowing was good because you could pull a Baylee and not worry what you can't worry about, but at the same time, I would have a huge distrust of the healthcare system because they weren't telling you what you potentially needed to know. So that is I can see both sides of it. I'm with you on that one, but yeah,
yeah, it was extremely frustrating. And as being someone that, was working in the ER and saw the doctor and the nurse side of things, I definitely felt like the stranded family member that was like not able to get let in at all, not ask any questions. So I feel for both sides, it's really difficult.
Especially the not asking questions part too, because you actually do know the questions to ask.
Right. Yeah. I was like, can I just talk to somebody for 1 minute? I just have a list really quick. So yeah, after being on both sides, I saw, I just wanted to talk to anybody that I could to get the questions answered. But my stepdad was able to call to the nurses station and talk to the nurses every once in a while. So I'm just glad that we had a little bit of information that they were able to tell us that day. I understand it would have been a lot to ask the doctors to talk to all of us waiting with answers. So, I take what I can get.
Well, I was still in California this whole time. I never flew to Houston or anything. So I was basically just hearing things over text. And it's kind of like Matt said this, and then Logan said this is what Matt said, and then nobody knows. So I kind of really I don't think I even fully was comprehending how intense it actually was. But I do remember Mom called finally, and I could just hear it in her voice that she was really sick. And I think that's when it kind of really sunk in that it didn't go as good as it was supposed to go. But I kind of got the good short end of the stick because I didn't necessarily know all of the information. I didn't see her in the hospital bed and stuff. So I was not able to picture that. So I know it was obviously I was freaking out every day, not knowing what was going on, but also Logan was there and still didn't know what was going on. So it was just kind of a weird situation that could have gone either way, which obviously we're here and that's the best way that it could have gone, and it did. But I don't think I fully knew all of the details of what was happening during that whole process.
Yeah. The whole situation was incredibly difficult. So I can't imagine being in either of your shoes, unfortunately, but yeah, I'm with you. I almost being so too far away to really be able to do anything could be kind of good in some ways, just because you can say, there's nothing I can do in general, number one, but there's certainly nothing I can do from Northern California to save this, to change the situation.
I will tell you that I don't remember a lot from my hospital stay, which is also a blessing in disguise, but I do remember Logan sneaking in to see me. And did I get out of bed when you came? Did I get out of bed or did
I hope
stay
not.
there? Do you remember?
No, I think you just sat on the edge of the bed.
So in my memory, I got out of bed.
Maybe walk to the restroom.
Okay, maybe that.
Maybe.
But
Then you weren't feeling well after that. So you're like,
gosh,
I'm
no.
going to go to sleep after. And I was like, okay.
I mean, I really, I've said this before. I think I willed myself, mind over mattered myself to get out of that hospital. So in my memories, I got up, I hugged you. Like, that's how I remember it going down. I was trying to be like, strong mom. And you were probably like just petrified looking at me, looking so sick and being so out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I send anybody crazy text messages? I know I sent your Uncle Sean a crazy text message. Did I send either of you a crazy text message?
Well,
No?
I didn't hear from you for days. I think the first time I heard from you was when you called me, but it was only for a short period of time, and you really couldn't even like talk like full sentences almost.
Yeah.
But other than that, I was just really hearing about it through Matt and Logan.
Mm-hmm.
Was that because of because you had the tube? Because of you?
No, I was
just so
out
weak.
of it. Yeah, I was very, very, very weak.
She also
And I was on a lot of drugs. I mean, I had heart failure, respiratory failure, sepsis, pneumonia, an abscess in my pelvis. Like I was on a lot of drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for talking about that. I know that it's not easy to talk about that because that is, it was scary. It was scary for me, and I am not her daughter. So I'm glad you guys were able to sneak in to see her and get the information you possibly could. But I'm sorry that was your experience though, because that's just really shitty.
Yeah, terrifying.
I want to say this to any hospital administrators, all of you who are listening, or physicians or nurses or anybody working in a hospital. Yes, the pandemic is hard and it really sucks and you're working long hours and you're exhausted, but your patient's not there because they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
They're not in the situation they're in because they want to be there. So try to give yourself a little compassion and grace, but also like give that same compassion and grace to your patient too. Just think of that patient as your family member, mom, dad, sister, brother, whoever that is, and treat them like you would want any healthcare professional to treat your family. So I had a really horrible experience, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. The experience that I had, surgery after surgery, the care I received in the hospital, it was pretty shitty, pun intended.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm surprised and incredibly disappointed that your family wasn't kept better informed and that you didn't have the opportunity to talk to the doctor or somebody who could tell you what was going on. And I realized that it was perhaps, more chaotic than it would have been obviously without a pandemic. But to me, it's pretty unconscionable not to provide that information to answer all your questions, Logan. Like you should have the right to take your list of questions and say, all right, somebody's going to answer these questions. It's your mom, for Christ's sake.
Right.
So my uncle went to MD Anderson because he had a type of cancer that needed to be in a clinical trial. And I was there asking questions, and it's my uncle. It's not even my dad or my mom, and they patiently answered my questions. They rolled their eyes at me a couple of times. I think at some point they asked me if I was a nurse or wanted to be. Pretty sure that was snarky, that kind of stuff. No, I'm joking. They were very kind, but they sat and answered all my questions. And again, I'm not even a direct family member, and they took that time, and that's the way it should be because this is scary. So
definitely very, very, very disappointing to say the least. And it's hard not to, I can't even imagine how my mom feels, but it's hard not to like hold a grudge about that and be so disappointed about that. Especially being someone that works, that was working in the ER and saw the other end of it too, where, the doctor's dealing with the code on one side and the family members calling and wanting to talk about whatever that's been stable for a few hours. So, and that was just in the ER. We were not in the ER. But so it's like, I do understand to an extent, but at the same time, it's really important to make that time to keep the family informed. If it was any other, provider and their family member was sick, they would want the same, questions answered.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah.
Especially when you can't be in there, and you can't be part of the conversations that your mom might've been having with the doctors. Although I don't know if she was capable of it. You probably were having conversations, just didn't know.
That was one thing that was very interesting too. I didn't expect, my stepdad would call to see how my mom was doing. And they were like, oh, well, why don't you call her? And we were like, you think we would have done that if she was able to talk to us? I don't know. Yeah, that part was interesting too. But
you're like, you do know who my mom is, right? Like, oh,
I'm like, we tried. Trust me, we tried that method already. That's why we're calling you. We don't want to bother you any more than you don't want to talk to us. but I was.
It is so funny that they told you, why don't you call her? Because I don't remember being coherent enough to
Exactly.
answer the phone. Like I remember, okay, this is probably going down a road that you may or may not want to have Alicia on this. I remember like waking up in the middle of the conversation with the doctor. And I say waking up, I must have been awake. I'm assuming that a medical professional with advanced degrees would not start talking to someone who was sound asleep, but I can't make those assumptions anymore because I mean, I felt like I just woke up in the middle of a conversation with one of these specialists that was in there to see me about, infectious disease or cardiology or pulmonology. And I literally had no idea. I mean, I felt like I woke up in the middle of a conversation. I had no idea what they were talking about. So I definitely was in no shape to handle my care on my own at all. And I feel like that, I don't know, I feel like that should have prompted them to have somebody in the room with me.
Or at least on the phone.
I mean, exactly. Like, I definitely didn't feel comfortable or capable of making any kind of decisions. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's MO, if that's how it works. So I'm just not there anymore. And I actually ended up changing surgeons and changing hospitals and changing everything for my second surgery.
I think that makes sense, even just because of the psychological factors of like going back to that hospital that you had to spend so much time in and where things didn't go the way you expected, seeing that same surgeon, seeing those same staff members around you. I just think, you know what, it's probably less psychologically damaging to not go back there and to go see somebody else and to have to restart, frankly. But I'm also not a therapist. So
Baylee, when did you come to visit me? Because you came to visit me like not long after I got home from the hospital. Was it in February? March?
I was going to say February.
I think it was in February.
Honestly, that was 2 years ago, and I can't even remember what I had to eat for dinner last night. So I have a feeling it was February.
Yes, you helped me pack.
I mean, I couldn't.
You helped me pack, so it was definitely February.
Oh yeah.
I just remember you saying like you wanted to come and like see me as soon as possible, like be in the same place as me, like see me for yourself. I just remember you wanting to get there.
I do remember helping you pack.
You mentioned, Logan, that you were working in the ER at the time. I'm curious if there has been an aspect of growing up with a mom with a chronic illness that has influenced either of your decisions on what you want to do with your lives.
I honestly think it would be tough to say that growing up with a mom that had a chronic illness it would be tough to say that it didn't affect almost all parts of my life, especially because we were so young living with her at the time, those like formative childhood years. I definitely learned a lot during that time from her illness specifically, like in regards to, not being scared to talk about going to the doctor and stuff. And I know that it was such a life or death, like life altering moment for my mom. I know that she was a lot more appreciative of, sorry, I went off topic, but appreciative of life in general. She taught us to work hard and that we can achieve what we want to and not to give up on things, because when it came down to that moment for her, she kind of had the eye-opening realizations about just how precious life is. So I definitely say that her having a chronic illness didn't, I wasn't like 5 years old, I want to be a doctor because my mom was in the hospital, but I think it definitely always played a part in, making me who I am today. She always encouraged me to do, hard things or things that I thought that were hard. I loved caring for her and talking to her about what she was going through. I always want to know everybody's symptoms in every book, and I want it to make sense to me. And, every doctor's appointment that my mom would go to when I was little, I'm like, I want to be in the room. I always remember Bailey's doctor's appointments too. I always wanted to go be in the room and stuff too, just to be a part of the conversation. And I definitely think that my mom's illness too kind of taught me the kind of healthcare like provider, I guess, personnel that I want to be. In terms of like advocating for yourself, she taught me a lot about just being a patient in general and how important it is to advocate for yourself. And so I hope to be a part of that group that's advocating for their patients. So yeah, I definitely think that it made a huge impact on just who I am in general now, because she was always so open about it when we were younger. So
I'm not really in like the medical. I mean, I am in the medical field, but not in that medical field. I'm a dental assistant, so I just deal with your teeth and oral things. And the only reason I became a dental assistant was to make good money and have a good career. So, I mean,
those are good reasons.
Guess I wouldn't necessarily say that it had to do with my mom's illness for my job choice, at least.
It's still a helping profession. So I'm curious if that may have played an aspect of it for you, but it doesn't have to. That's okay.
I guess I've never really thought about it like that. So
Everything
was
you
kinda
do
like-
doesn't have to revolve around me, Bailey.
I just was not making enough money, and one of my friends was a dental assistant, and she's like, I make this much, and I was like, yep, you got me. I went to school, and here I am.
I mean, listen, I very much was affected by my dad's multiple sclerosis. I became a social worker because of it. I went into chronic illness, like working with people with chronic illnesses because of it. My brother's a patent attorney, like he could care less. So it
Like
happens.
Logan and I polar opposites.
Right.
Like Logan was always the one that was like asking questions and stuff, and I feel like I didn't necessarily ask questions the way that she did. Like she wanted to know every little detail about everything, and I just got the gist of it and was like, all right, got it. Like, and like it's like, whoa, da 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 da. But I don't necessarily have that.
The drive to know all of the details.
Yeah, well, not the drive. Just I don't ask people questions a lot. Like people will go do something. I'm like, all right, see you later. And then somebody will be like, oh, where'd they go? I'm like, I don't know. Like I didn't ask them. I just let them go.
You're just not a curious person when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me ask it a different way. So and this answer can also be, no, my illness had nothing to do with this, because again, this doesn't have to revolve around me, and please God, don't let everything revolve around Crohn's. But you are very you like what you like, and you have tried several different types of jobs, and when you realized that it was not the right place, path, decision for you, you didn't just hang out and wait to see if maybe one day I'll like it. You made a decision, changed your mind, changed your path. Do you feel like how you grew up had anything to do with you being that kind of person, like just knowing who you are, being able to make those decisions without worrying about if it's the right decision or having regrets about that?
I mean, definitely a lot of things that you taught us as children in those younger years, I definitely base my life, not base my life, but base a lot of decisions on. Like everything happens for a reason. The universe works the way the universe is supposed to work. And I feel like that's why I don't get anxiety and I don't get stressed out a lot, and I don't overthink about every little thing, because I just am like, it happens the way it's supposed to. But you always were telling us that, and so I feel like I just always remember hearing, I know, even if you don't know the reason, you might never know the reason, but there's a reason for it. And I feel like that's definitely how I live my life now. And if something's not working out for me, then it's not gonna work out, and I'm not gonna just sit there and be miserable for no reason. So I definitely think that has, in that aspect, yes, but not necessarily involving you having Crohn's. I think just you as a person who instilled these life coaching or whatever life
I was life coaching you, yes.
Otherwise known as parenting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I tell my friends all the time, I'm like they'll be sad about something, and I'm like, my mom always said, give yourself a time frame, and once you hit that time frame, you have to move on from it, or you have to come to terms with it, or whatever the situation is. But I'm always telling my friends, everything happens for a reason, the universe works the way it's supposed to, everything that goes around comes around. So I would say yes on that.
This episode is sponsored by Roman Well. Have you ever felt overwhelmed and unsure about what questions you should ask your doctor, or if you should get a referral to a dietitian? If so, you are not alone. The dietitians over at Roman Well help patients every day navigate these questions and many more. They've just released an amazing free resource for patients called the IBD Patient Starter Kit that is jam-packed with tips and tools to empower you to become your own best advocate. Check out the show notes or head on over to romanwell.com to download a copy of the IBD Patient Starter Kit today. I am going to tell all of the parents out there listening, if you think that your children aren't listening to you or learning from what you say and do, this podcast right now is all the evidence and proof that you need that they do listen and absorb and internalize, and then share it with their friends, which I'm actually really excited that you share that kind of advice with your friends.
Good advice. All right, so I have a non-IBD related question for you guys. One of the things I always appreciated about your mom, and I think that perhaps I say that as if like you died or something. One of the things I appreciate about your mom, and that I appreciated from the beginning when we first met each other, is that your mom is always up for a spontaneous adventure, and she's incredibly independent. Like she's just like, I'm gonna fly to Maine tomorrow, and I'm gonna do this thing, and I always appreciated that, and I think that's probably why Robin and I gravitated to each other, because I'm like, yes, let's do this fun adventure. So tell me a childhood memory that you have of like this aspect of your mom's personality. Like, do you have any fun, like we just got in the car and went to Brenham for Bluebell stories?
Oh, I have so many stories of things that we did when we were younger and still do to this day. Last time that we were visiting my mom, or most recently, we were like, let's go to the beach for the weekend. Got in the car, went to Florida, stayed at or Alabama. I don't remember exactly which beach we went to, but just little things like that. Hey, you want to go to the beach tomorrow? We're packing up the car and we're going to the beach the next day. And we were living in Louisiana, so it's not like the beach was, 10 minutes down the street like it is for us now. That's one example that I have. And I think the independence thing also, just Baylee and I are very independent now. And I think that's a lot that has to do with, we saw my mom being so independent, and so she just kind of raised us to be that way as well. But definitely we got the travel bug from her. We're always trying to travel somewhere new. We got the adventure bug from her. We're always talking about what we can do next and what our next visit to each other is going to be and what we're going to do that time. So yeah, definitely.
Well, even now, like whenever my friends and I are planning a trip, they're they're like, well, let's ask your mom. Like, what's your mom doing? Like, does your mom want to go? Like, even if 2 or 3 years ago, myself and two of my girlfriends wanted to go on a cruise and only one of us was 21 and you have to be with somebody that's over 25. And so I always text your mom, and my mom was like, yep, I'm coming. And we planned it right away. But that's all. I mean, I don't remember specific trips, I guess, but that's always been something that that's always a way that my mom is. And anytime we talk about doing anything, she's always ready. And I feel like I'm the same way. Like if my friends will text me out of the blue and be like, what are you doing tomorrow? Let's go do this. I'm like, yep, I'm there. And they're like, I knew you'd say yes. But I definitely feel like I got that from my mom. Just traveling and always wanting to explore new places, new things, always wanting to do things, being out adventurous and stuff. So I don't think that will ever change.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that your friends are like, text your mom.
Mm-hmm.
that makes my mama heart happy. That makes my mama heart so happy.
That's been, that's happened more than once. Like if we're planning a trip and they're like, well, text your mom, see where your mom's gonna, if she wants to come, see what she's doing. So
That's really cute. I love
and
that.
I feel like also being independent. I mean, a single mom raising 2 kids. I guess I don't know if I necessarily realized it when I was younger, but definitely as I've become an adult, I'm very grateful that she was able to give us the life that she did, even though she worked her ass off every single day and was sleeping in the restaurant booths and whatever else was happening. Because now I feel like I don't need anybody in my life, and I can work and I can travel and I can do all these things and be totally content doing it by myself. And I don't think that always happens, but in our situation, the way that mom raised us, I'm very independent, and Logan's very independent as well.
And I think that will serve you. I mean, if eventually you get to a point where you decide you do want somebody in your life, you're finding the person that fits into the life you've already built instead of building your life around somebody else. And so
Right.
I think that also will serve you well as you get older. Robin, any questions you have for your girls?
It is hard for me to ask them questions on the podcast because we talk very often. Even if we're not talking on the phone every single day, we at least text each other every day. I feel like we text each other every day. And if we go a couple of days without talking to each other, we're all like, okay, it's time to talk. And we have in-depth conversations a lot. I mean, if I want to get Baylee to talk, I have to be in the same city with her and get her in a car and go on a long car ride. And, we can have these deep conversations, and I ask these kinds of questions about them. It's hard for me to nail down what's the perfect question for me to ask right now with this format.
A lot of pressure. I'm sorry, Robin.
So much pressure. I'm just proud of us for talking and sharing, and I haven't cried yet. I feel like that's an accomplishment, especially listening to Logan talk about.
There you go, girls. This is your challenge. What story can you tell that's going to make your mom cry?
I definitely expected some tears the moment we joined this podcast. So I'm surprised as well.
Yes, you know me so well, Lo. And actually, if Baylee sees me crying, she's like, again.
Well, that's just because I literally never cry.
I know.
So like a lot of my friends that I've been friends with for years have seen me cry like once, and it was like over something like very traumatic or very intense to me. But like I never cry, and Logan and my mom are both criers, and I'm like just sitting here like, are you done yet? What are we crying about? Like, I don't know. It's like, and that's kind of funny because like I've moved a lot in my life, and it's easy for me to just like pack up and just bounce wherever I'm going next. And all my friends will like sit there and be crying, and I'm like, I'm sorry, like I'm sad, but I'm also like, I'm not crying. I know that looks bad, but I have a smile on my face, and I will see you when I see you.
But nowadays you can stay connected. So I mean, in all honesty, I mean, it's not like when Alicia and I were younger, and when your friend moved, like that's it. You didn't talk to them again.
Carrier pigeons, messages in bottles.
Right.
That's right. They became a pen pal, and that's if you like wrote to them regularly. So
right.
I mean,
and if your parents would buy you stamps, like it was, there was just
it's not the same. Yeah, I mean, I could see not crying when somebody's moving now, because you're like, text me, I'll message you on Insta, like something.
Well, like one of my best friend Lexi, she's like, I can't believe you're leaving, in 2 weeks, and I'm just like, like, it's happening. Like, I'm sad, and I'm so weird because she's like my right hand. We know everything from top to bottom, back and forth, like inseparable. And I'm like, I feel like I don't feel it until I get there, and then I'm like, whoa, this is weird. Like I can't build up to it. It's just like, okay, it's happening, and then it happens, and it's like, oh, like this is what they were talking about.
With that sniffle, was that you getting a little teary-eyed about leaving your best friend? No. We have just seen a close-up of your eye, and it is completely dry. So maybe you're just dehydrated.
So
I probably
am. You probably are. Are you drinking water? Is anybody drinking? We didn't even ask what they're drinking.
Yes, I'm drinking.
Yes, we missed that whole part. What are you drinking, Alicia?
I am drinking Sociable Cider Works is another local cidery here. I'm drinking, it's called Freewheeler, and it's just their dry apple cider.
Logan, are you drinking?
I was drinking a glass of red wine. I have no idea what kind it is. It's just the kind that was in the house, but red wine.
That's the best kind.
Yeah.
I know that you're not drinking, Baylee.
I'm drinking a Mountain Dew. I have one brain cell that is working, and I drank way too much last night. So
what did you drink last night, though?
What did you drink last? Do we want to know?
I mean, it's just alcohol.
Like all of the alcohol?
Vodka Red Bulls.
She's drinking a heart attack.
A heart attack.
She's only 23. Okay. So she can handle the vodka Red Bulls.
But
then her sister, who used to work in the ER, comes in strong with the heart attack.
I do miss sleeping like I was 23. I'm not gonna lie, because like you're just like, I was drinking vodka and Red Bull, and you probably like immediately fell asleep, and I would be awake for 6 days. This is where aging is like, aging.
Yes, this is true. I'm also drinking cider, Alicia. I am drinking, although it's flavored cider, I went out on a limb. It's pomegranate and cherry cider.
Oh, that sounds nice.
It is very lovely and refreshing.
So last question we ask everybody, unless Robin has another one.
I was just going to say one thing. One of the questions that you asked the girls about anxiety or worry, right? About their health, or if my disease played it. So as a parent, I have that worry, right? Everything that I know about IBD is there is a genetic component to it. It doesn't happen in every family, but there is a genetic component to it. But also just autoimmune diseases in general. And right now we're coming up on like milestone things. Like Logan said, she's 24, she's going to be 25. I was 25 when I was diagnosed. And so as a mom, and with Baylee being 23, they're just getting closer and closer to how old I was when I was diagnosed. And my chest is tight right now, just saying that out loud. Like I'm getting anxious just saying that out loud. So I do have anxiety about it. And with everything I know, with all the doctors that we've talked to, with all the research and all the new medications and all the ways that it can be treated and all of these things, I have a lot of anxiety about Logan turning 25 in a few months, because that's how old I was when I was diagnosed. So
Logan, for your birthday present to your mom, you need to go get a colonoscopy.
Yeah.
And just make sure you just verify that you're still good, just in case. No, I tease you, but again, stoic Midwesterners, we don't talk about things like poop or feelings. So my dad, having multiple sclerosis, being the epitome of a Midwestern man, he never said anything to me. In fact, like, we didn't even talk about it. Like, I don't think he's the one who actually told me he had MS. I think I found a pamphlet. Like, that's how I found out. And before he died, like, my mom admitted to me that he was very worried about me specifically getting multiple sclerosis. And so that was a huge anxiety for him that I would be diagnosed with this. I also am fairly klutzy. So there might have been some cause for him to be a little concerned about me, but he was really concerned. Like, this was one of his biggest fears, was that I would get this. And so I totally get, from a parental perspective, like, you don't want your kid to go through some of the stuff you went through, no matter if there was great treatments, fantastic precision medicine, all that bullshit. Like, it's still a disease that sucks and sucked for you and doesn't have a cure. And you don't want that. Nobody wants that.
Nope, nobody wants that.
Okay. Last question. What advice would you give to the IBD community? Baylee, I'm going to start with you because you're smiling.
I was waiting for Logan to answer. I'm staring at her on the little computer thing. I don't know. I guess it would just be trying to stay positive through the downfalls and the troubles that are going to come with it, no matter what, and trying not to like give up on yourself because it's hard, because it's always going to be hard. So that's my advice.
My advice would just be to continue to talk openly about it. It is uncomfortable for a lot of people to talk about, what's going on in the bathroom and bleeding from areas that people should not be bleeding from. And it's uncomfortable to talk about being in pain, especially for people that, too, are so young and can't really comprehend what's going on. So I just would say to encourage open communication, and rely on each other as families and communities, reach out to people that want to be involved. And, I think like there's so many amazing communities that can help people with IBD. I know that my mom found a lot of things that really helped her. I don't know if it helped her get through the disease, but it seemed like it did, made a positive impact in her life just by being able to connect with people that are going through the same thing that she's going through, and talking, to a lot of people about her symptoms. And she's met a lot of amazing families and stuff that she's been able to give advice to, and she's learned a lot from. So I think it's really beneficial to just continue to openly talk about what's going on. So that would be my advice for people. Try not to be ashamed of it.
I'm going to add to that as the mom here and just say, I think your first instinct is going to be to protect your kids from what you're going through. But I feel like Logan and Baylee are a very good example of what open communication can do for your children when they become adults. And I'm super, super proud of the women that they are and that they're becoming. And I don't know what kind of mom I would have been without IBD, but I'm okay with the mom I was with IBD.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see tears. We got it. Finally. No, yes. I think that clearly you were a good parent, because obviously your girls turned out great. So thank you guys so much for doing this. I know it's not easy to talk about your mom in front of your mom, but also to talk this openly to a bunch of people that you don't know. So thank you guys so much for doing this.
Thank you for having us.
Yep. Thank you for having us. Glad to be here.